what's up, everybody? This is the 9 to 5 podcast, episode 1. I'm sitting here with my brother, my friend, over what, a decade?
Yeah, man. It's been about 10 years. Yeah, for
Yep,
sure.
over 10 years. And his name is Darius Robinson. So we're gonna go ahead and welcome Mr. Robinson to the podcast over here, and we're gonna go ahead and get started, man. What's going on?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me. Like,
Absolutely, man.
Sam, like, I remember it. I remember like it was yesterday.
See, this ain't about me. This ain't about me. We're gonna keep it about you.
Nah. Okay. Well, I mean, I give you a little backstory about myself.
Okay.
Darius Robinson. Like, I grew up here in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
I went to undergrad at Kennesaw State. I was very involved in student government. I decided to pursue my master's degree at Georgia Southern University.
That boy talk cool on the mic. That's how he talks on the phone. We'll get into a little bit of that. That's how he wraps up his candidates.
I went to graduate school at Georgia Southern University with a focus on student affairs. Achieved my degree in higher education. I honestly decided during that venture that it was more important for me to move into a different place, and so I decided to become a recruiter.
Nice, man. And before we get into the story of recruiting, this is 9 to 5 podcast. This is strategic just because there's a lot of myths about working a quote unquote corporate job, a quote unquote Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, whatever you want to call it, but being an employee of a company or working for a company. So I wanted to put a podcast to give a real perspective of people working successful 9 to 5 jobs, taking care of their families, living their daily lives, and having fun and enjoying what they do. So first things first, he's a recruiter. If you don't know what that means, how do you define a recruiter? If you had to, if you had to put it together.
Honestly, I would say recruiting is sales. I think that there's a misunderstanding of what we do as recruiters.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that people have this assumption that, we just look at applications and then we get somebody hired. But the reality is most of you who are applying for these jobs don't actually qualify. And so
that's something that we need to get into. That's something that we need to get into as well.
Yeah, and I think our job as recruiters is to do two things. Number one, to make sure we really understand our customer. And our customer is the individual who's hiring for the position. What are the requirements? What are the things that they're looking for? But on the other side is to be the agent for our candidate and to make sure that our candidates have the right tools and resources to be successful in the interview process. So when you start to combine the two, it sounds simple, but it's very complicated because as you start to dive deeper, sometimes, we're faced with situations that are very hard to overcome.
Absolutely.
And managers don't have a lot of...
they don't have a lot of patience.
The patience.
They don't have a lot of patience. That is a good word.
Patience.
Is a because like technically if you're not a recruiter or if you're just someone overlooking, not knowing what a recruiter does, it's looked at as, hey, this person helps me get a job.
Right.
I know some of my recruiter friends and has been asked sometimes by people that they're friends with to get them a job at companies that they're at in no regards to what they're actually recruiting for. Like, bro, I recruit for a software engineer and you on a computer. So there's no way we can talk right now about that particular job. But in all seriousness, if you had to tell someone on a day-to-day basis, do you like your job?
Man, I love what I do.
Okay, love. That's an important word.
I think that, when I think about when we first started working together 10 years ago, like, there are a lot of people in this country who are really down and out. And when I first, moved into recruiting, a lot of the positions that we hired for were for individuals for what I would define as lower income positions.
Absolutely, they were part timers and stuff like that.
And
Some full time
you know, there's like
opportunities to go to full time.
yes. Hey, chill. You already giving out the tricks. But there are always those, you know, those individuals who you really change their lives.
Absolutely.
And I can think about, you know, this guy one of the first people I hired in Huntsville, Alabama, who we got him the job and he could not afford to make it to his first day of work. And I literally paid for his taxi cab. Like I can remember that. And, you know, just to think about other companies that I worked at where individuals, you know, their first day of work, they don't have the funds to pay for the equipment that's required to do their job. And like literally like pouring into people and now have an opportunity to graduate from that to, I mean, I'm sure you've experienced this too, where like literally, you know, you have individuals who were like you literally double, triple, quadruple their income.
Yep.
So it's just like an evolution. So I'm thankful to have this opportunity.
Absolutely. And so, like I said earlier when we started, just to discount a lot of the myth about having a quote-unquote 9-to-5 position,
Right.
Do you feel like you're in 10 years into the game right now, when you first started, did you feel like you knew what a great recruiter was?
No.
Yeah.
I think, like, to answer your question, when you think about...
Because you don't have any office experience at that point, right? You're fresh out of college, still in the club.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Still at various networking events.
I mean, I guess to, like, maybe dive into your question is, like, more so... I don't think people necessarily think about taxes.
Yeah.
People don't think about, you know, what does it really mean to make $50,000, $80,000, $100,000? Like, it sounds good on a direct deposit.
Yeah.
But when you start to understand how taxes work, you realize that your 9-to-5 can't be your ultimate driving force.
Right.
So one thing that I learned very early on by happenstance is the importance of Roth IRAs, HSAs, FSAs,
Yeah.
lens crafters.
Hey,
We want to talk about lens crafters.
so it's a great trick, right? Because okay, you're a 9-to-5 person.
Right.
Are you really going to go spend $600-$700 on some Tom Ford shades?
Right.
Probably not. But if you have a HSA and a flex spending account,
Yeah.
you can dedicate maybe $5 off your paycheck per year.
Right.
Every check. That adds up to Tom Ford.
Yeah. No.
So what we talk about is you gotta use your money the right way.
And Sam, it's crazy because, like, I remember when you introduced me to this idea
Oh yeah.
because I didn't know about it. I'm like, I can really, like,
You need sunglasses
use
to
this
cover your
card
eyes.
to, like, walk into Lenox Mall and buy these sunglasses. It's like, yeah, that doesn't work. No, it worked.
My mom actually put me up on that. So shout out to my mom's for her FSA. When I was in high school, she used to be like, yeah, if you're not going to the doctor, you could buy like little stuff and things like that. So all my shades in high school, that's where it started from, man. I was
Right.
just like, all right, let me just cop me some shades.
And you know, to, like, maybe take this to a different level, like, when you start to think about 9-to-5, right? It's deeper than how much money you're making every 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
It's about capitalizing on the opportunities that come with working at a company and the health benefits and the tax benefits
The health-
that you may or may not take advantage
Or
of.
as you get to other companies, the wellness benefits, like
Yes.
the importance of your company funding your gym membership, your kids' daycares, like having discounts off of hotels when you travel.
Yes.
So it changes like the dichotomy of your life just by being in that structure, quote unquote, 9-to-5, because there's always like that other side of it where it's like, I'm not going to work for anyone, but if you're working for yourself, chances are it doubles your hours. And I'm a strong proponent of, like you just mentioned
Yeah.
earlier, you got to do something outside your 9-to-5. So I'm a strong proponent of being an entrepreneur.
Right.
But with that being said, it's like your company, these companies do provide you a quality way to make money as well.
Yeah. And so I'll ask you this question. What's the, in your tenure of working full time, like,
Yeah.
what's the coolest benefit that you've taken advantage of at a company?
So when I worked at Microsoft, we got a wellness benefit, and I actually ended up buying a DJ set.
What?
For my wellness, I wanted to learn how to DJ. I bought a DJ set, bought some headphones, bought some speakers,
Some beats?
and it was some dirt speakers.
Okay.
My girlfriend, who's a real DJ, actually saw my board. She was like, "What you doing, bro? Like this isn't how you start." But
Wow.
I say that to say, like, it was just something that entertained me. And then I used my first wellness to get a camera lens, which could be pretty pricey
Wow.
too. So
Wow.
yeah. What about you?
That's a good question. Honestly, I think it was the glasses.
Yeah.
You told me about
You got
it.
some- you
I
got-
lost them, but I bought them at Lennox Mall.
And when you
for real.
realize you just lost $500-$600 pair of glasses, you're like,
But it wasn't my money, so I wasn't even tripping.
You're not
It's like,
hurt.
hey,
You're not hurt.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, I think that's one of the formative options of like those different things that these companies could take advantage of. What was the learning curve for you? Because I know before you, when you started, like compared to where you're at, everything needed experience, right? When you
Right.
saw a job like the one that you're in, it said it needed 10 years of experience. What does 10 years of experience actually mean? Because companies would be like, we need 5, we need 10. Like, what does that actually mean when they say we need 10 years of experience?
Man, I don't even know what part. Can you ask me that question again? Because
So, if you're at a job right now, right,
Okay.
that requires probably about 10 years of experience for you to be in, correct? Like you work,
so you're saying that I'm working full time.
yeah,
I'm looking for another job. I've been working for 5 years.
right.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then you see a job and the company's like, hey, we need 10 years of experience. Let's break it down because most people don't have 10, right? Let's go 5. The company needs 5 years of experience, but you have 7 years of working experience, have only been doing that particular position for about 3 years.
Okay.
How do you make your experience kind of worth it?
Don't apply to the job.
Thank you.
like you're the reason why we don't check job applications.
Well, some recruiters are getting just like, hey, you don't have enough experience and
Right.
things like that. Yeah.
And I think like to the point is like the company put these requirements in place on purpose.
Right.
If you do not have the basic requirements for the position you apply for, just don't apply to the position. Because naturally what you're doing is making it difficult for the person who has experience.
Absolutely.
And I think we can both say here, in general, the average person who applies to the positions that I recruit for, that you recruit for, they don't qualify.
Yeah.
And
that's a lot of what we, as recruiters, we spend our times doing sometimes is filtering out the people who don't qualify just merely off of
Exactly.
relevance to the job.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so like you talked about it earlier, or we talked about it earlier, like that's why our job is difficult, because we have to go out and find people, because the reality is there's so many people who apply that don't qualify that we don't have enough time to go digging in to find the right person. I think, to take this to another level, transparently, maybe it's less important for you to apply to a position. Maybe it's important for you to identify individuals who work at the company, who have those years of experience, who can refer you.
Right.
Because by taking that approach, you honestly increase the chances of like landing the interview.
Yeah.
And I think people get so lost in, let me submit my application, let me submit my resume, and I hope somebody reaches out to me. And it just gives me what I call the Tinder effect.
Yeah. Whoa. But it's very true. Like, at that point, it's like if you reach out, especially with social media now, like we have LinkedIn, which is a professional social media. You can ask someone to lunch that lives in your city that works at the same job that you're aspiring to get. And 9 times out of 10, they'll find time on their schedule, especially now we have Zoom calls to have like a side-by-side. You can actually reach out to a recruiter in that, make sure it's in the specific industry that recruiter is actually working in for them to be able to help you. Because not every recruiter from a certain company works on that particular job. I think it's also like a misconception that just because someone is a recruiter, that they know everything about that company.
Oh man, like that's a great segue. Yeah. Like that's a major misconception that I think every recruiter deals with is that
you're the keys to the job, bro.
Like, hey,
you got the job.
You're the recruiter, like get me the job.
Absolutely.
No, I am a recruiter and I have a certain, like group of positions or roles that I'm hiring for. And you more than likely are not one of those people.
Absolutely.
And it's important. What I tell people is, if you really desire to work for a company, find individuals who are already doing that job.
Yeah.
Find individuals who've been at that company for a couple of years. Find individuals who graduated from your school, who have a similar background to yourself, and have a discussion with them. Because the cool thing about it is, if they like you enough, they can submit you as a referral.
Yeah.
And if you get the job, what's the benefits to submitting referrals?
Usually they get paid as well.
Exactly.
So it's a win-win. It's a win-win.
Exactly.
But the main thing is like know your qualifications, know what makes you qualified. Don't try to use that approach of like throwing darts at a board as far as applying for jobs and like hoping that it sticks.
Exactly.
Just because, it's a job. So another part of the recruiting function, I'm going to switch it to the other side. Do you feel like being a recruiter allows you to live more than an average life in America? How many countries have you been to, Darius? How many parlays have you been to?
Man, being a recruiter is a blessing.
Yeah.
It's a blessing on both sides. It's a blessing because you have an opportunity to really, and I only learned this really when I came to my current employer. Like, you really have an opportunity to change someone's life.
Right.
And it took me going from working at smaller tier companies to where I am today to really understand the impact that, I have on someone's life, but also the value that big tech companies put inside of hiring recruiters. And so just as a sidebar, bro, like one of my fraternity brothers, he started at MarketSource, I think almost 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Making the same old income, Wednesday, Thursday pay.
Yeah.
This man is now making $85,000 in less than
3 years.
In less than 3 years.
Yeah.
So no master's degree, no 5 years of experience, no $85,000.
Yeah, it's very possible, and I sit here as someone who's made like well over six figures as far as
you kept
recruiting.
switching jobs every 2 years.
It's that's another thing I would say. Like, I think as a employee that is a high performer, I feel like you should always demand your worth, and not necessarily monetary wise. For me, I'm first generation from Africa, so I'm trying to build up my family. Liberia, right? Liberia, West Africa. So if I'm making something here, I want to make more because I need to set my family. I think now as you've obtained a certain amount of money, the quality of getting the next job is a little bit different as you have more stability in your life and things like that. But at the beginning, I'm getting to my bag.
Yeah, let's talk about
to the
that.
bag like an NBA contract.
Like,
because I know what I provide. I'm gonna give you quality candidates.
Let's kind of like think about that a little more, right? Like,
right.
Like over this time, let's think about our trajectory, right?
Yeah.
Like I want you to talk about yours.
Yeah.
As much as you like to, and I can talk about mine because,
Yeah.
like to your point, like there are different ways to progress in your career,
Yeah.
and I think you've shown me a different level like progressing in your career, and it makes me think about why you started this podcast.
Right.
Because I think about like you as an employee, but you as also like an entrepreneur. And I
Yeah.
think that's like great insight, and I could talk about my story too, but I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I think for me, number one, I started working because I needed money. So I needed a better place to live. I didn't want to live in my mom's house after college. I wanted to go out to the world and really experience life because I grew up war-torn country, 10 years, Civil War, came to America. And my first job out of college was $32,000. And if you know anything about $32,000 and you live in the city, you pay your bills, your car note, and where's the next pay coming from? But we got paid commissions, so
Yes.
the pay was higher when we got our commissions, and I was chilling okay with the growing through the company route. But then my work permit expired.
Yes.
I think that
I
whole
didn't know you
thing
were gonna
changed my
talk
life.
about that.
Yeah, my work permit
That
had
was
expired.
crazy.
And I was out of work for about 6-7 months, but my company was still paying me, which I was very grateful. But when I
Yes,
came back
bro.
to work, they were like, "Hey, man, we're gonna have to recoup. We're gonna have to recoup that
All
from your
of that.
check."
Yep.
So I was like, "Oh, really?" So I was just like, "Okay, let me stay here as long enough, pay them back, and then I gotta find something to make more because they're cutting into my pay and things like that." So I kept going, and people just kept recruiting me out of the jobs that I had. I was just like getting paid, and they were like large jumps. Like my last company was, I got paid 50% more than what I was making.
Right.
And I was making 6 figures. So it was like, well, it was a bittersweet. It was a bittersweet because I was with a company that it was one of the best. It's one of the best companies in the world.
Yeah.
And I would say it was the first time I was about to leave a job that I was like, am I doing the right thing? Even though I was almost getting paid double my pay. But, you know, I feel like at that point, it was more so my eyes could see how far I couldn't see anything. I had tunnel vision to the money.
Right.
That was pretty much it.
Right.
As long as I'm going to, like, after 6, work is over. Nah, like, I'm working here till 7:30, so
Right,
I'm going
right.
to get paid.
Right.
So that was, like, my initial thought process about
Well,
it.
no. Talk more about like the entrepreneurship thing too, though. Like, I know you were coming to work every day, but you were doing other things on the side to
Yeah.
like make additional income. Could you talk a little bit about that?
I mean, I feel like I became a photographer.
Before the photography.
I tried to start my own company to help recruiters, like entry level recruiters, get jobs. I did a lot. I did a lot.
talking
of
about the
things,
soccer.
man. Oh yeah, I was a soccer coach. I used to
Yeah.
train kids and stuff like that on the side, like 3 days a week after work and things like that. So just
Yeah.
really trying to rise up, like literally feed my family and
Right.
things like that. Because a 9 to 5 is important. It's great for stability, but I think the reliant of a free market economy and trying to make your own is always. That's why I respect the people who created the Jeff Bezos, the Bill Gates, and things like that. Is like, yeah, they made something that you're like that we would want to work for, but at the end of the day, it's like we got to try to have our own.
Right.
Yeah. Man.
You know, like to your point, like honestly, I've only worked for 3 companies
Yeah.
over an extended period of time since I moved into this like recruiting space.
Yeah.
And I think you like to your point, like I think I took a different approach to my career and to what I was doing. Like
Yeah.
my philosophy was as long as I do great, the opportunities will come to me. And
Facts.
for me, it was never about the compensation. It was about just being very good at what I do.
Yeah.
And, you know, from my first job, when we started working together to my second position, it was the power of LinkedIn. Like people literally seeing the things that I was doing and that I was building and that I was working on and saying, hey, like we want you here.
Absolutely.
And, you know, even from that opportunity not working out like I expected, and actually going back
Yeah.
to the homeland, to the motherland, and doing it again, and
Right.
like being successful. And man, shout out to this company, bro. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's changed so many people's lives, including me and yours, and so many other people I know.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you know, when it came time, when I got the big boy call,
Yeah.
it was from somebody who worked at the same company when we
Right.
first started many years ago.
Right.
And for me, it was taking that journey and like knowing like, hey, this is where I want to work, this is what I want to do, and like finally getting that position.
Yeah.
And I think to your point is that, you know, a lot of people don't realize the ramifications that come with, you know, making a substantial amount of money that
Oh,
you
yeah.
never had before.
Oh yeah. It
And
comes with a lot.
It comes with a lot of
Some decisions that we don't know necessarily how to make because we don't have anybody in that point of reference to make those decisions.
right.
Like it comes with a certain level of like bravado. Like I ain't gonna lie. If when I reached a certain point, I started looking at myself like, dang, like how did I even get here? Like that imposter syndrome sometimes is like when you get into the office, like you don't. Am I really worth what I'm getting? And then you realize what other people are making, and then you're realizing, okay, like maybe my seat is cemented. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot that comes with that.
And I think it's also this like this continuous learning curve. Is to like,
Absolutely.
you know, you go from this place of like, I'm the best at what I do. I'm a top performer. I know this, I know that. And then like, no, you don't know anything.
Yeah, you got to prove yourself.
You got to prove yourself.
That's
And I
one of the
think-
hardest things about switching jobs. It's like you got to start over from the bottom and prove yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think on top of that is more so like when you get in situations where you're not properly adjusted to changes in your income over a short period of time, there are ramifications that come with that.
Facts.
And I think about COVID. I think about all of our friends who, you know, they got the jobs, they're making all this money, they're working from home.
Yeah.
They thought everything was good. And, you know, we talk about things like HSA or like, you
Yeah.
know, get your Roth and do these things and like save your money.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, I'm going to buy a Benz. I'm going to buy a belt. I bought a house. And then they got laid off.
Yeah.
And
Which is unfortunate, of course.
it's unfortunate, but it's also to a point that I think a lot of us as adults have to realize is that, like, this is not your company.
Right.
Like, they have the power to, if they decide things are not working out in their favor, to, you know, send you off on your way, and sometimes with a very nice package deal.
So that's a great question, right? Or a great segue because that's a lot of people's thing about a 9-to-5. Why they won't work it is like these companies could let me go at any time. So why would I even give them my time? What do you say to that?
What I say is, live out your passion.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of people are chasing a direct deposit and they don't spend enough time living out their passion. And for some people, their passion is their job.
Yeah.
Their passion is waking up in the morning and just doing their job. And
Yeah.
for some people, that's okay.
Yeah.
And for other people, maybe they have a passion for photography. Maybe they have a passion to become a DJ. Maybe they like cooking, but they're not willing to take the time
Yeah.
to sacrifice, to learn, to grow, to start make money, to start an LLC, to build a website, to get an email. Like
Yeah.
all the basic things you need.
Even
start
while
building a
you're
business.
in that company,
Exactly,
some
yeah.
companies do need a DJ,
Yeah.
like, and they hire DJs. And if you're in the company or have a role in the company, there's some way you can introduce that you're a DJ. You just have to
Yeah.
talk and meet the right people and be able to be approachable and things like that.
Because you've done that too, right? At your last company, you've
yeah,
done
yeah.
photography. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, man, I definitely would say in a segue to kind of wrapping up the conversation, I definitely would say from a standpoint of a 9-to-5, the reason why I feel and everyone is entitled to pick whichever path, But I wouldn't knock it just because you can make a great living. I'm not talking about like, because we didn't go to Harvard. We didn't go to Harvard.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you want to rank 1% of recruiters and stuff like that in the world, I can put you up against anybody. I would say that. I would say that we can put ourselves up in this bucket of we're elite at what we do, and it's more so about whatever space that you're in. From my perspective, it's about dominating it to the effects of I have a family to feed, not as the effects of what do these people might think of me in the office. And that's what I respect about you more. I wanna give you your just
flowers.
due. I'm not gonna be like I wanna give you your just due and your since we're going the corporate route.
Yeah.
I wanna make sure to tell you because you're one of the first people that I've seen speak up at a company. Well, we're like,
whoa. You have to go into that. What happened?
we're pretty much, like we're at a company where it's a different levels of people every time. Most of us are entry level employees fresh out of college, and we have a meeting with the biggest bosses of the company.
Yeah.
And my boy Darius just shouts out like, "Hey, like, do we get paid extra for this?" In a way, and in a sense, everybody's thinking it. I'm saying like everybody is thinking it because as the meeting goes, we're kind of looking like, okay, pizza party ain't working.
Yeah,
we need some type of funds. And he asked it, and everybody had this shocked look on their face, like, bro. And I think they had just rewarded us. They had
like
rewarded us something, but it was for something that we did previously. We wanted to know what was coming.
Yeah.
So when you said that, I was like. This man got some balls. I was like, all right, like I respected it because from the standpoint of like you got to go after what you want. And ever since then, I've been seeing you go after what you want and doing things the way that you said that you were gonna do them.
Yeah, and I think
important.
like, and maybe this is a different part, and I come back to the like 9 to 5 versus like having your own company, but like one thing that I learned in life is that like when you're very good at something, it's very hard for somebody to say something crazy to you. And I had built this level of respect in this place where I was never worried about what they might say to me. And that wasn't honestly the first time that happened to me. I'll tell you the first time this really happened as a sidebar. I used to work at Belk fresh out of college.
Yeah.
And so they had this rule where like you can only like take an hour break, but you can only take it at certain times. But I had just graduated from college.
Yeah.
And like all these employees had been working there for years.
Yeah.
And they always used to complain like, Darius, like we never get our breaks when we want to. A store manager came in one day. She said, okay, does anybody have any concerns? I said, look, man, we need to be able to take our breaks when we get ready.
Right.
Like, we don't appreciate how this been working. Like, we need to do it a little differently.
Right.
They changed the policy the same day.
Yeah.
We got downstairs and they said, Darius, oh my God, I've been thinking this for 5 years.
I just wanted to eat a sandwich.
Bro,
right.
It's one of them things. And one thing that's always been important to me is to pay it forward.
Yeah.
Like, if I know something and I know it can make you better, like, I'm going to help you.
Facts.
Like, I'm going to help you. But it's up to you to receive the information and process it. And everybody's not at a place in their life or their career where they're willing to embrace change.
Yeah.
They like to complain and like, the life is wrong. And like, no, like the people who really want to be successful, honestly, become successful.
Yeah.
And the people who complain ultimately become the people who make less money. So
I agree. And I feel like, and sometimes you need a little bit of luck, blessing here and there, but we're not talking about the intricacies. I think if you put your mind to it, stay sharp, and kind of follow the rules that this man has kind of laid up. We've talked about. I think you will be able to be successful at what you do. But we wanted to explain what a recruiter is. But we wanted to leave you with a question. You still didn't answer for it. 9 to 5 or entrepreneurship. Which route would you say that you would choose if you were just listening?
I would say both.
Absolutely.
I mean, I would say
Don't be a sitting duck.
like, there's uncapped commissions with having your own business.
Yeah.
And the tax advantages are extraordinary. Like, working a full-time job. Like, I think about it in two buckets. The one thing that you always have as a full-time employee is insurance.
Right.
And when you have your own business and you're working for yourself, insurance is
It's you.
very expensive.
Insurance is you.
Insurance is
You get sick. Oh, it's coming out
Don't
of your
get the
check.
COVID.
Right.
And
right.
I'm a proponent of, especially people who maybe have a couple years of experience to like take a super pay cut,
Yeah.
go get a job. Like, I've been in recruiting for over a decade. If I really wanted to pursue a career in photography, I'll take a $50,000 job in recruiting because I'm very good at it. It gives me the insurance, it gives me my 401k, it gives me the ability to sleep at night.
Right.
But
you
people
need
are-
to be able to. And that's
Right.
another thing that's peaceful.
It's
about
peaceful,
being
yeah.
sure your needs and wants are covered by your 9 to 5.
Employer.
You're
Yeah.
able to sleep and wake up and have some holidays and some weekends.
Exactly.
Because when you work for yourself, like I said, your rest day is not your payday.
And like that's to my point. Like, I think people get to this level of like, I need to make this much money.
Yeah.
Like, no, you need to make so much money.
Right.
If you want to make $100,000, you could take a job that pays you $50,000.
Right.
That gives you all these benefits. Then you need to go chase
The next
$50,000. That's
and
it.
I agree 110%. And we're gonna stop there because that's a gem. That's a gem. That's a gem right there because
50-50.
50-50. You gotta keep it 50-50 with yourself or 100. I don't know. But I feel like that was very, very intelligent information, and that gem right there, like if you can make 100,000 if you look at it from a perspective of, yes, I'm getting my 50, but where can I develop my full 50? Now, somebody pay you 150, 200. Don't go try to get 50
it's
out
not
of
that-
200.
That's not the same math, bro. Like, let me break this down with this.
All right,
I don't
break it
know
down.
the full breakdown, so I'm just making this number up.
Yeah.
But if you make $50,000 with an employee,
Right.
you're going to be taxed at 20%.
Right.
And I'm not sure the right number. I'm just making this number up.
Yeah.
So 20% of 50,000 is really only 40,000,
Right.
right? But if you have a business, like a photography business, that you can earn $50,000,
You can keep.
you
Well,
can. Hey. What I'm saying is, you don't get any benefits from driving back and forth to work.
Right.
You don't get any benefits for using your cell phone to talk to a candidate per se.
Right.
But if you start a photography business, you can write off the gas, you can write off the car, you can
Yeah.
actually go buy you a Benz
Yeah.
and write that off because that's your work transportation.
Absolutely.
And maybe this is another episode, but like people have to start realizing the value of having a business and the benefits from a tax and a write-off standpoint that
Yeah.
it brings you.
Absolutely. And the fact that you're also going to have taxes to show from that other business as well. So that way you're not
It reduces
you're not
your
just
tax
paying
burden.
taxes. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I appreciate you joining.
Yes.
One of the most brilliant minds in recruiting right now. And keep going, bro.
Hey man,
You
thanks
got
again,
another
man.
10 in you?
Hey man, we got to go 10 for 10.
10 for 10, man. If you make a dub, but we'll have him back for sure. But
For sure.
this was a great talk, and I appreciate y'all watching.
All right, thanks again.